Kia ora and welcome back to the HRPI. I'm Marie Tovio, Employment Relations Consultant, Private Investigator, and your guide to navigating New Zealand's trickier employment situations. Today's case file is the reference trap, how to give and request employment references in a way that is fair, accurate and professional. References may seem straightforward, but they regularly create problems for employers. A rushed comment, an exaggerated warning, or even confirming someone worked for you without their permission can create issues that were entirely avoidable. So the first rule in this case file is a simple one. Consent comes first. Under the Privacy Act, information about a person's employment is personal information. That means you should not disclose it to a third party unless the individual has authorised you to do so. In practical terms, you shouldn't provide a reference or even confirm that someone worked for you unless the person is given permission. In most recruitment situations, that consent is clear because the candidate has nominated referees and authorised the prospective employer to contact them. But if someone approaches you informally for a reference, it's necessary to pause and confirm that the individual has agreed first. Once consent is clear, the next step is ensuring the reference itself is accurate, fair and factual. In New Zealand workplaces, references aren't heavily prescribed in legislation, but they sit within broader employment law principles, particularly good faith, fairness and accuracy. Courts have made it clear through case law that references should not be misleading, careless or malicious. The safest approach when giving a reference is to stick to information you can substantiate through direct experience or documented performance. Many employers choose to provide what is commonly called a record of service, confirming the person's role title, key duties, and dates of employment. That can be a sensible option where the employment relationship ended in difficult circumstances or where the organisation prefers a consistent and low-risk approach to references. If you choose to provide a more detailed reference, focus on observable performance. For example, you might comment on meeting targets, completing projects, reliability or teamwork, ideally supported by examples from the person's time in the role. What employers should avoid is speculation or unsupported personal commentary. Comments like, "Don't hire him, he's trouble," or "she's impossible to work with," are vague, difficult to justify, and can create unnecessary problems. A more appropriate approach is to describe what you actually observed. For example, during his time with us between 2022 and 2024, he met most performance targets. We discussed communication expectations during that period and saw improvement following some coaching. That type of reference provides context while remaining fair and factual. It's important to be mindful of your privacy obligations when giving references. Even where an employee has authorised you to act as a referee, the information you share should still be relevant and proportionate to the purpose of the reference. Performance or conduct issues that were addressed during employment may be discussed honestly if they are supported by facts and relevant to the role. However, sensitive personal information, particularly medical details, should generally not be disclosed unless the employee has clearly authorised that information to be shared. Another practical step that is often overlooked is keeping a record of what was said. A brief file note or copy of a written reference helps ensure clarity if questions arise later about the information that was provided. Since reference information itself is personal information under the Privacy Act, it means employers need to store it securely, limit who can access it, and avoid keeping it longer than necessary. In practice, recruitment records including reference notes, are usually retained for a short period so organisations can respond to any questions or information requests about the hiring process. Once that purpose has passed, the information should be securely destroyed. Many organisations also have a policy about who is authorised to provide references. Some restrict references to HR or senior managers, while others require managers to provide only a record of service rather than detailed commentary. These policies help ensure references are consistent, factual, and not influenced by personal opinions. If your organisation has a reference policy, managers should follow it rather than providing informal references on behalf of the organisation. Now let's turn briefly to requesting references, because this is where employers can also create risk for themselves. Before contacting a referee, employers should obtain the candidate's clear permission in writing. That aligns with the Privacy Act's expectation that personal information is collected in a transparent way and with the individual's knowledge. It is also important to confirm that the referee has direct knowledge of the candidate's work. Sometimes referees are nominated who have limited insight into the person's performance or where the role isn't relevant to your vacancy, which would make the reference far less useful. Do review who could provide an appropriate reference, and if it's not someone listed as a referee by the candidate, you can ask them if they would be happy for you to carry out a reference check with an alternative person, such as a manager of a role they've had that is likely to be more relevant to your vacancy. And if they agree, ask them to contact the alternative referee to ask them if they would provide a reference, and let them know who they should expect to hear from. When conducting the reference check itself, structured questions are far more effective than general ones. Instead of asking, "Were they good?" ask questions linked to the role you are recruiting for. For example, how did they manage deadlines or competing priorities? How did they contribute to teamwork? How did they respond to feedback or coaching? These types of questions encourage practical examples rather than vague praise. It's also important that reference questions stay focused on the role itself. Employers should avoid asking referees about matters that could be discriminatory under the Human Rights Act, such as a person's age, family situation, religion, or other personal characteristics. Reference questions should relate directly to the individual's performance, behaviour, and ability to do the job. And remember that reference check information is only one piece of information, not the whole picture. Reference checks should support, not replace, a thorough recruitment process that includes a range of selection methods appropriate to the role. For example, completing an application form, interviews, skills assessments, a psychometric assessment, health, licence or qualification checks, and careful consideration of the candidate's experience. So the key lessons from today's case file are these. Consent comes first. References should be accurate, factual and fair. Only share information you can substantiate. Use structured questions when requesting references. Keep a record of what you provide or answers gathered. And store recruitment information securely, disposing of it once it's no longer required. Handled properly, references can help employers make informed recruitment decisions while maintaining professionalism and fairness for everyone involved. If you're unsure about how to handle a tricky reference situation, whether you're giving one or requesting one, it can be helpful to pause and get advice before responding. I can provide templates and guidance for reference checks. The information in this podcast is provided as a general overview of key employment topics and does not replace tailored advice. Every situation is different and the appropriate steps can vary depending on the specific circumstances. If you're unsure about how to proceed in your workplace, I encourage you to seek advice and support. Feel free to get in touch with me directly. The statements are logged, the facts are on the file, and this reference check won't come back to haunt anyone later. Mā te wā.